How's it going, everybody? Bryan, Alvarez, and Dave Meltzer here, Wrestling Observer Radio. It is December 4, 2018, figure4online.com/wrestlingobserver.com.
How was your weekend?
It was, what was my weekend? I finished writing this book.
You don't remember it? You finished the book? Good job.
I'm exhausted, so
I'm exhausted too. I'm exhausted too, and I didn't even write a book.
That's right. Went on a boat on Saturday. That's why I was unavailable for the show. It's tough to get away when you're on a cruise.
What kind of a boat? Like a night cruise date thing or something?
Yeah, just a Christmas party cruise ship.
Yeah, I did one. I did one of those a couple of times, like way back. Yes. Not in recent years. They're really fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So I missed the UFC.
The Saturday UFC was a great show.
Was it?
Oh man, it was. Yeah, there were like the last 4 fights, I think. They were like, the last 4 fights were really good. The boxing match was, I actually liked the UFC fights more than the boxing match, but the boxing match was pretty epic in its own way. It was much bigger, just because of that knockdown where Tyson Fury. I mean, he did one of those timber knockdowns where it's like he's done, he's not getting up, and then he sat up like the Undertaker and got up, and he was like, fine. I mean, he wasn't he wasn't wobbly or nothing. It was like an incredible performance. So it was a big weekend for that. Man, UFC's on its way out of FS1.
That's right.
Only a couple more shows left.
Well, hey, since we're on this subject, we might as well start with the UFC pay-per-view percentage story we talked about a while ago, actually. There's an update on this.
Yeah. So Sports Business Journal had the story, I'd say it's 3 weeks ago or so, which we talked about it about the time, about UFC getting a 70-30 split on pay-per-view, which in fact is not the case. And in fact, there's not even a deal signed. So we will correct that they are negotiating a deal with DirecTV and with In Demand. Their current deal expires at the end of the year, which is a 50-50 split deal. And they're trying to get a better percentage. But I would say that the 70-30 is highly unlikely that they will get. And these are, there's tons of money at stake. Like if they got 70-30 and they're not, I mean, that was worth whatever it was, 64 million, 65 million, perhaps. I mean, obviously it depends on the year. But for this, if it had been in effect this year, it would have been a $64 million difference in revenue, which is gigantic. Even at, I mean, it's absolutely gigantic. But it's not going to be like that. So that is an update. So I updated.
Well, that's kind of a weird situation because, like, obviously UFC, they need to be on pay-per-view, and pay-per-view needs UFC right now.
Pay-per-view needs
because there's no pro wrestling. So they're both in like a really unique situation where they can kind of hold each other up, but like they need each other. So there's only so much holding up that you can do. I mean, what's UFC going to do if they don't get their 70-30? I mean, they're just like, we're not going to run anything on pay-per-view? Of course not.
They really can't. They're not ready for that yet. There may be a day when everyone's ready to go on streaming and everything. Like if streaming, it's just not big enough yet. Because I don't know what the percentage is. I know the Mayweather, not the Mayweather, but the McGregor and Khabib fight was 20%, but that's way over usual. I don't know what usual is. I don't know if it's like 10%, probably somewhere in that range, 10, 15. So it's like you'd be cutting off. I mean, yes, you would get people who order on television like I do. If there's no other choice but streaming, absolutely would order it on streaming. A lot of people would do that, but you're still going to lose a lot. So you need the television right now. But if UFC's all, I mean, it's like there's so many games going on. Games, not the word, but there's so many. This whole thing is so many things. Like with pro wrestling is just changing before our eyes. Boxing, everyone, the whole economics and everything like this is just changing. We're seeing it so rapidly, and this is another one because it's like boxing. When Canelo signed the deal, it looked like boxing was done on pay-per-view. But now you had the fight, the Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder fight, And these are two guys who were never on pay-per-view before as main eventers. And it's early. I don't have any numbers. It's only Monday. I'm sure I'll have something late in the week. But, the indications are that it did really well. And all of a sudden, hey, maybe there is life after Mayweather and Pacquiao and Canelo on pay-per-view. So maybe it's not dead. It's funny because everybody's been waiting. How many years? Certainly since 2014, we've heard constantly pay-per-view's dead, right?
I mean, people have been talking about that for years.
Yeah, and yet
erroneously, I might add.
And still erroneously, yeah, because that the boxing match was a $75 pay-per-view. The UFC prices are up, and granted, there's a difference. It's like the small shows. People are more willing to skip small shows, I think, all across the board because there's so much product. I think with pro wrestling, I mean, I know friends of mine that would watch every pay-per-view that are very willing to skip shows, and I think a lot of people skipped Crown Jewel. A lot of people skipped Evolution, but I mean, WrestleMania is still going to be as big as I mean, I would think as big as ever, or certainly huge, if not as big as ever. Conor and Khabib was by far the biggest ever. There's if Brock Lesnar fights Cormier, that's going to be a giant fight if that ever happens, which is looking less and less likely, I think. But yeah, the big ones are going to be, it always seems that the big ones get bigger and the small ones get smaller. But in the end, as far as total revenue goes, if you've got stars that are big stars that are fighting, it's all star power related. With no stars, you're not going to do that big. If you've got two big stars, you're going to have a great year. Got one big star, you're going to have a good year. But yeah, as far as like pay-per-view's not going anywhere. As far as for the big events, there's no way anytime soon. I mean, 10 years from now, who knows? 5 years from now, probably not. But now will TV pay-per-view be replaced by streaming pay-per-view? I'm sure that these companies hope it, because for streaming, you really are getting a 70-30 split. So it's far more lucrative for the company if you buy it from them streaming as opposed to the TV middleman. But it's not big. You still need the TV right now. So yeah, everyone needs everyone. But yeah, the big question comes. We're not quite there yet, but we will be at some point. Is does the TV industry, whether it has to do with, because Major League Wrestling is done unless somebody new comes in, and who knows? I mean, we obviously people are going to try next year, but if somebody new comes in and doesn't have a streaming service, they're going to be doing they're probably going to be doing big shows on pay-per-view. But right now, as far as pro wrestling goes, it's WWE Network, and they're not going to drop pay-per-views from WWE Network. So that's going to continue. But for boxing and for MMA, the pay-per-views are going to continue. But so from a cable company standpoint, at what point do you go, we can charge this 50% and they need us, but in the end, they're going to be pushing harder and harder and harder for where they get 70% from streaming, and we're going to have a decline? Or do we go in there and try to match that and go with like a 70-30 split? And believe me, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that very willingly. But I'm just talking about the long game, where TV is always going to be superior to streaming, I think, as far as just the ease and just the confidence of people. Although maybe not by much, but if you want to preserve, if TV wants to preserve its stake in the pay-per-view industry, they're not going to be able to charge the, or have such an unfavorable split when there are more favorable splits elsewhere. Or they will basically split themselves out of being the main provider as soon as the public is more willing to buy the streaming rather than the television or not care. Perhaps you can do, the one thing that they have is the deals where you can't undercut them, although WWE did undercut them, where, you can't undercut them. So let's say, like UFC, just as an example, if UFC, they could let's say it's a $65 price for the pay-per-view. If UFC said, well, we'll charge $55 streaming, or you could pay $65 on television, that could lead a lot of people to go, you know what, save $10, just do it that way. And then all of a sudden, and UFC would still make more money on $55 than they would on $65 if you bought it straight from them. So, but contractually, they can't do that right now. So that's another thing of, it's just an interesting game that's going on. We'll have to see. But they're going to strike a deal for this year because both sides need each other. But both sides also, there's a long-term game, not the 2019 game, but the 2024 game. And that's interesting to see how that's going to transpire.
We got a date for Jack Swagger's first fight in Bellator.
January 26th. They're giving him a real tough opponent. So the guy he's fighting is 0-1. His only fight went like 25 seconds or something like that, 24 seconds, against somebody that I've never heard of. And he's 41 years old, I think. And he's 220, so he's going to be probably a good, 45 pounds, maybe 40 pounds lighter than Jake Hager. So he's being put in a position to look good. But, here's the thing. He wanted to start last summer, so he's starting 7 months later. I mean, the thing with him is he really has the physical tools on paper to be a hell of a fighter. Because number one, the heavyweight division is pretty weak. He is a good wrestler. He is a good athlete. He does train hard. He had a rep for being a real hard trainer when he was younger. Of course, injuries changed that. And he did I'm sure he picked up his bumps and bruises in those years in pro wrestling. But the issue is that he's 36 years old. The other good thing is he's tall, which always helps you in MMA. And if you've ever noticed, and you probably have, he's got incredible reach. His arms are so long for a guy, even a guy who's like 6'5" or whatever he legitimately is. And I think it is 6'5". I think they say in pro wrestling 6'7". But his arms are really long. So he's got the tools to be, like on paper, he's got tools where you would go like, this is great building blocks to be a fighter, except he's 36 years old, and that's tough. That's real tough. But I don't think the first fight's going to be much of a test. But you never know. It's a fight. But he's going to stop pro wrestling after Saturday and go intensely into hardcore training. I mean, he's been training for over a year now. But January 26th, which is crazy night. As we've talked about many times, that's going to be an insane night, and that's a new addition to that night.
All right, we got to talk about this Raw show here. There was a lot of talk. I watched this on delay, and so every week I get to hear a bunch of feedback before the show goes in the air. Had a lot of people that hated this show, thought it was the worst show ever. I didn't think it was as bad as the last couple of weeks. I thought this one was better. Am I wrong?
That's not the worst. This was far from the worst show ever. It was a show. I don't think it was a great show, but it wasn't like, last week's show was really bad. This week's show, there were definitely some kind of lame segments. The handicap match stuff was kind of lame. I thought that the I don't know. The angles were traditional angles. The Ambrose and Rollins angle was they were intense. It was good. McIntyre, I thought, had a real good performance. Ziggler, I thought, had a real good performance.
They backed off a lot on the heat this week. They actually had babyfaces winning matches, and I mean, they're obviously still building to TLC, but we had a happy ending in the main event with the women. We had Ziggler. Although I do have a question. Did I miss a show somewhere? Was there like a show Saturday night when I was in the boat where Ziggler and Drew McIntyre were like having problems and led to the split here tonight?
I mean, they had done some teases. You remember when the Ambrose thing was going on, where they were teasing everybody splitting?
It was like a month ago, and then everyone was fine ever since.
Yeah, no, they haven't done anything overtly.
That was before Crown Jewel.
Yeah, before Crown Jewel. Yeah, they haven't done anything to. Yes, it happened like kind of out of nowhere. Yeah,
totally out of nowhere.
Yeah, pretty much out of nowhere. Yeah, and there's way too many turns. That's another thing. God. There's so many turns, and it's like there's so many turns, and you don't even know if somebody turned. Like, I don't even know if Ziggler's going to be a babyface or a heel next week because I have no faith in them. Because let's face it, how can you? But as far as, I mean, it's like they're going to pull the trigger on McIntyre. It was just a question of when. This was going to happen. Unfortunately, even though Ziggler won that match. He's looking like he's going to be it ain't going to be as bad as Aiden English, but you know what I'm saying. He's going to be fading down, and McIntyre's going to be going up, and that's how it was always going to be from day one. That they used McIntyre kind of like what the storyline is. They used McIntyre not McIntyre. They used Ziggler to his role was to be there. They could dominate the tag team scene. And then they're going to break McIntyre off into a singles guy and a top guy. And it's worked. I mean, everything's been exactly like they wanted it to be. So, it came out of nowhere, but it was there. And, a lot of Ronda Rousey. It really felt like it really feels like a very thin roster. I don't understand the Rhino Slater stuff, but I guess they just and certainly like there's still way too much Baron Corbin. That's I mean if you're not a fan of Baron Corbin and you're sick of Baron Corbin, I could see you hating the show. But after last week it's kind of like, man, almost anything was going to be an improvement and this was.
Open up with a 10-bell salute for George H.W. Bush. And then the show opened with Ronda and Natalya versus Nia and Tamina. Doesn't even start. Riot Squad comes out, distract the baby faces. We get an immediate beatdown. Natty gets put through a table. Cole explains they're both seriously hurt. Which, of course,
Ronda's never seriously.
No one's ever seriously hurt.
Well, Natalya has an elbow injury.
She held her elbow, yeah.
So they took her out and took her to the doctors, and that was the idea of getting her out of the picture and putting Ember Moon in the picture.
Yes. So she's out of action, selling the elbow, and Ronda's very, very upset. So then Alexa comes out, and usual BS heel promo. She's going to give it her best every week, bring us the best from the women's roster. Says, I could not even... This right here, I can understand why people hated the show here at the beginning. Last week, she says this Q&A didn't work out too well with Bayley and Sasha, so you know what? We're going to do it again.
Yeah, I know. The Q&A segment was lame.
This died. She calls out Sasha and Bayley. They actually come out, but they want to know where Dana, Mickey, and Alicia are. Alexa pretends she's sorry for what happened. Says they're not going to be out here this week.
They never did explain the Dana Brooke turn, did they?
No, never.
Okay.
So, the first person, Zach, wants to know what they think about the comments on social media that Sasha is using Bayley. Sasha sarcastically says, clearly I'm about to stab Bayley in the back again. We're best friends.
Isn't that what Corey Graves says like constantly?
Yes. She actually called him out by name. She said, right, Corey?
I know she did. She did.
It says they're best friends. They'll be tag partners for life. Next one wants...
No, they won't.
No, they're clearly on their way to doom here.
Okay, but one thing that was significant is they mentioned women's tag team championships.
Yes, they did.
We know they were going to do it, but it tells you they're going to do it pretty quick because they wouldn't be mentioning it if it wasn't happening pretty soon.
Next one wants to know if they could wrestle anybody from any era, who would it be? They want Trish and Lita at WrestleMania.
So does that mean we're going to get that match?
You see, that's a good question because it seems to me they're breaking them up.
Yeah, but they don't have to break them up right now. They can break them up in months.
Well, I mean, they could in months, but
I mean, why?
There's one of two things that's going to happen.
Why rush it? We've had enough breakups. We have enough breakups so we can have more.
Because they can't help themselves is the answer.
I know.
But here are the two options. Option number one, they actually win the women's tag team titles and they defend them against Trish and Lita at WrestleMania.
And then they break up in that match.
Or they don't win them because then either A, one turns on the other before, or one turns on the other after they fail. I think these are your options.
Yeah, I think so too.
So the next guy wants to know what superpower they'd have if they could have anything.
I wanted to shoot that guy.
Bailey wants the ability to make Alexa disappear. They celebrate in such a way that people start to boo them.
I mean, that was really, really. You can't put
hideously lame.
You can't put somebody in such a lame position and have them come out looking good. And then, that celebration was so, I don't know, fake-ish. Just really, it's like they don't have a clue how to book baby faces.
No. So then the next one wants to know what changes will you bring to Raw in 2019. Bailey says, well, there have been big changes this year. We want to be the first ever WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. At that point, Dana, Mickey, and Alicia run down. Alexa pretends like she doesn't know why they're down there. She signs a tag match coming up next. Does say that Dana's allowed to stay at ringside. We get Alicia and Mickey versus Sasha and Bailey. Not much of a match. Sasha gets a hot tag, backstabber on Mickey. Bailey hits the belly to Bailey, gets the win. And Alexa applauds outside.
Mm-hmm. So she's doing the fake baby face thing that everyone knows is fake.
Yes. Ronnie yells at Alexa backstage. Alexa says, I had no idea this was going to happen. I sent them home. I'll address their actions next week. Write that down, by the way. Ronnie says, I want to kill Tamina and Nia tonight. Alexa says, I can't let you do that, but I will help you find a new tag team partner. Rhonda, the one babyface on this whole show that's not an idiot, says, I don't trust you. I'll get a tag team partner myself. And off she goes. We had a goofy...
This was more than almost any week. It felt like the Ronda Rousey show.
It was a Ronda Rousey show.
She's there at the beginning, she's there in the middle, and she's there at the end.
Yep.
And she comes across like she's the biggest star in the show.
She is. I mean, who else is there?
She is. Well,
I mean, I guess Finn Balor was all over the show too, but...
Yeah, but she's a bigger star than he is.
Yeah. So, we had a goofy Baron Corbin promo, corny, overdramatic video, and then he's backstage looking through a folder. Bobby Roode, Chad Gable show up. They want a rematch against AOP for the tag team titles. And Roode says, I want Drake Maverick. Corbin says, you guys lost. You're owed nothing. But I will give you another title match if Bobby Roode can beat Drake Maverick tonight. Roode wants to know what's the catch. Corbin says, no catch. AOP and Gable are banned from ringside.
There's always a catch.
These baby faces are so stupid that they believe this and they leave.
They didn't believe it.
Yeah, they did.
They knew there was a catch.
No, they asked if there was a catch, and he said no, and then they kind of shrugged at each other, and all right, let's do it.
They couldn't get an answer. I don't think they believed it for a second. I didn't believe it.
Well, of course you didn't. You watched the show.
Yeah.
Lucha House Party comes down to the ring.
By the way, I mean, they weren't booed because they were in Texas and everything, but don't the Lucha House Party come across as like total heels?
Absolutely. Are you kidding?
I mean, I'm getting to the point where I don't even like them anymore. And I like them, but I don't even like them anymore because it's like, how do you know, it's like...
Well, this week, everybody, the Lucha House Party rules means in a tag team match, all three members of the Lucha House Party can be in the match. It's 3-on-2, basically.
We've already established that.
Yep. So tonight, Scott Dawson comes out, and he's complaining on the ramp about how this is not fair.
He wants a singles match.
Yep. And the ring announcer then announces Scott Dawson will be wrestling in a singles match tonight. However, it will be under Lucha House Party rules. It's a 3-on-1 match, advantage baby faces.
How is that? How do you do that without like killing your baby faces?
Well,
Although, in this building in Houston, it actually worked fine. But I just think that people watching at home are going to start, going, God, the revival's getting screwed week in and week out by the system.
Yeah, and then Dawson actually got heat on Lince Dorado in a 1-versus-3 match. And then finally, House Party makes a comeback, triple teams the guy, pins him, and this causes this idiot Michael Cole to determine that the Lucha House Party has the Revival's number. It's 3-on-1.
Yeah.
Corbin's still looking at a folder. A box arrives. He is overjoyed. We have Drew McIntyre Appreciation Night. First, we get a video, and then he comes out, gets booed. Corbin presents him with a gold medal. He says, "You got rid of Kurt Angle. Raw needs a new gold medalist. This is the Raw Gold Medal of Excellence."
So is Angle coming back now?
Doesn't sound like it.
That's the impression I got, was that Angle was going to come back after McIntyre.
Well, we'll see what happens, but he got beaten within an inch of his life. I don't know how you bring the guy back.
I know.
I don't know how anybody would possibly care after that happened. So Drew thanks him. "This means the world to me. I'm here to stamp out weakness. I'm sick of all these geeks on their phone, begging for likes on social media." He starts burying Finn Balor. He's the voice of all these geeks in the audience. He's nothing more than a boy in a man's world. I'm going to hurt him at TLC, break his spirit. Then suddenly, Ziggler's music interrupts. Drew looks upset. I was baffled. I thought they were friends. Ziggler comes down to the ring. He says, "I thought we had an alliance. I brought you to Raw. I don't see myself in your video package. I was the brains, you were the muscle. Maybe my invitation to your party got lost in the mail." Drew says, "You were never invited. You don't meet the height requirement. I was the brain, the muscle, and the talent, the whole damn package." He says, "This is working. This was working, but it's not working anymore. Get out of here." So
I guess I got to say that I thought McIntyre really was good here on the mic.
He was very good.
Yeah.
A very good job here.
Yeah, he was real strong. I mean, it's like he felt to me, obviously he's going to be a top guy, but he felt to me like a top guy. Like his mic work was top guy mic
Dude,
work.
he is a top guy on the show. Like,
I know.
right now, who is above Drew McIntyre? Like, nobody.
Well, Strowman when he comes back.
But, I mean, he's not there right now.
But that's about it, yeah.
So he's the top guy. He's the top male superstar right now, Drew McIntyre.
Well, I think that really the top is Seth Rollins, but
I guess Seth Rollins, but
he's
mired in a feud with a guy wearing a gas mask.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. Anyway, so Drew, Dolph attacks him, hits a zigzag. Baron signs a match for right now. I knew Dolph was winning after Drew beat on him for like 15 straight minutes. Just massacred the guy, beat the hell out of him. Finn Balor comes out, and he watches. Drew ends up throwing Ziggler into the ring. Ziggler clips the ref's leg as the ref is distracted. Finn hits a running dropkick on Drew. I thought for sure they were just going to count out Drew, but no, he got in the ring. Ziggler super kicks him and pins him. First ever pinfall or submission loss for Drew McIntyre on television since he came back. Right there. Can you imagine?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole thing is to set up that Drew's probably going to destroy Finn Balor, and in fact did later on the show, and probably will be. It's an excuse to keep the Ziggler thing going with multiple matches, because if McIntyre just beat Drew in the beat Ziggler in the first match, there's nothing to come back for.
No, there's not. But like when Drew is really the top guy as a heel you've got right now, I'd have done that count out.
You could have done that.
You still had the heat on Finn. He cost him the match.
Yeah, you could.
You can still do the Drew and Dolph match. I mean, you could still do everything they did without beating Drew McIntyre here.
Yeah, and you could save the first loss for when it would mean something, because in a sense, the first loss, but they never really talked about a winning streak before.
No, they didn't, but they made it very clear, like, this is his first loss.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that it was his first loss probably should have been in a much higher stakes situation. But, they like to make sure that nobody has unbeaten streaks or anything like that. They try to get rid of those. I'm trying to figure out how they're going to get rid of the Ronda Rousey one.
Oh, God.
I think they're sitting here plotting like, God, I hope it's, as long as it's not Nia Jax.
Oh, We had Drew with Charlie. Says Dolph was never his friend, but now he's an enemy. Cuts this wild promo vowing to destroy him and says Finn Balor is a marked man. An Elias promo vows to take out Lashley at the pay-per-view. Lashley and Lio Rush come out. Leo's talking up Lashley, has him do his poses. Last one is him mooning the Drifter. Elias can take no more. Elias runs up the ramp to attack Lashley. He's immediately beaten. But he does make a comeback, and he throws him into the big video wall. And then I guess Lio Rush had fled. Finn Balor comes out, throws Lio onto the ramp, and Finn Balor waffles him with a guitar shot and lays him out. Elias waffles him with the guitar.
Elias hit him with the guitar, yeah.
Yeah.
And Elias... So this was weird. Okay. Elias chased Bobby Lashley, who was kind of crawling, right, to the back.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, okay, is there like this like secret thing that...
It's like Sleepy Hollow, once you go over that bridge.
Yeah. It's like he wouldn't... It's like he didn't go backstage. It's like the guy could barely move. But once you, like, it's chase the guy to where he's backstage, it's like, is it like Switzerland or something where you're not allowed to attack?
I think the timing, something got screwed up because I don't think Lashley was supposed to crawl back there. And the Drifter had to do that deal where he had to, like, do the really, really, really slow run. And then he got... So I think something just went wrong timing-wise, but it was absolutely hilarious watching him basically walk behind a man crawling, and as soon as Lashley was out of sight, it was like, I can't get him. And he gave up and came back out.
Yeah.
So then we had Jinder telling Corbin not to let this stress him out. He wants to take care of Finn Balor tonight. Corbin says, squash him. And then Rhino and Heath Slater show up, and Corbin says, I've been crunching numbers. There's only room on Raw for one of you. He says, why don't one of you make it easy on the other guy? Quit. Neither guy wants to quit. So Corbin says, fine, you're facing each other tonight. The winner stays on Raw. The loser is fired. They're both very sad. So, of course, it's Bobby Roode, Drake Maverick. As noted, these babyfaces come out. AOP attacks Gable backstage. Corbin shows up and says, I changed my mind. It's 3-on-2 handicap match. The match has started. So AOP and Maverick destroy Roode. Gable starts limping down a ringside, makes a one-man comeback, but they cut him off. They kill him. AOP with the Super Collider. Tag in Maverick. He gets the pin on Roode. And quite frankly, I have to say, Bobby Roode and Chad Gable deserve this for incessantly mocking this guy for pissing his pants. This was poetic justice.
Yeah. I think they just deserve it for trying to do bad comedy. But don't they deserve better for being good wrestlers?
Hell yeah, but I mean, come on. What do you think is going to happen here?
I don't know, but freaking Chad Gable...
AOP deserves better than to be called AOPP.
Well, nobody called him that this week.
Thank God.
That was like a one-week thing. Yeah, I know, really.
So Dean Ambrose, top heel, comes out with gas masks, a bunch of other guys in gas masks. The city stinks. He had to get himself inoculated. Cuts his promo. It was actually a hell of a promo, despite some of the stupid stuff he said. It was a great delivery. He says, it's easy to rile up Seth because he's just like the fans, needy and emotional. He always wanted something from me, just like the people. Rants and raves about living with someone who always has to be right, always has to have their way. He was talking about Seth, by the way, not Renee.
Yeah, I know.
Calls the fans gutless, says Seth has weak character, just like the fans. That's why they love him. Says he could take the title by force on Sunday, but that would be too easy. Says Seth is going to drop the ball. He's going to slip up, go into a tailspin. He's going to lose control. And most importantly, he's going to lose the Intercontinental title. Seth's music hits. He hits the ring, attacks Ambrose. They start beating up on all the geeks. And Dean finally hits him in the face with the gas mask, goes to work, drags him in the ring, dirty deeds, leads him for dead. Pretty good angle right here. Very simple, old school angle.
Oh, no. They went too far because then Ambrose hit him with dirty deeds the second time, and then people start chanting one more time.
Well, they've been cheering this guy for weeks now.
Well, they didn't cheer him until he hit the second one. I think the one thing we've learned is that if you hit the second one, they're going to cheer you, in almost all cases. So perhaps since we've already learned this and established this, maybe the heel shouldn't hit the second one because all it does is turn him babyface.
Or what you do is you lift him up for the second one, and then you drop him. You don't give it to him. Or they chant one more time and you pick him up and they're chanting one more time and then you just drop him. Don't give it to him.
I think that's a great idea. And perhaps somebody else in that same position might have done that. But that didn't happen tonight. And perhaps it couldn't have happened tonight. But maybe that should be filed away, and the next time they're in a situation like this, don't do it the second time, because you already know that if you're going to devastate a guy a second time, they're going to start cheering for you.
We had the Nia Tamina promo. Charlie alerts Nia that that Ronda's partner is Ember Moon. Nia and Tamina intimidate Charlie. Says the reason Ember is the partner tonight is because Tamina's been jumping her from behind week after week, so we don't have to see her face. Gonna rearrange her appearance tonight just like I did to Becky. Gonna isolate Ronda because she can't be 100% after the Charlotte beating. What? She was 100% the next night. And she screams and peeks the mic, and that's that. Why the hell they did Heath Slater and Rhino, I have no idea. Went like 30 seconds. Rhino beat him up, ran into the corner, neck breaker, 1, 2, 3. Rhino's career's over. Heath goes backstage. Corbin announces, "You will now be a referee." Gives him a shirt.
Yes, so I wonder what's up with Rhino.
I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe he's going to train at the Performance Center. Help train guys. Who knows?
It's possible.
They haven't done a damn thing with him. I can't remember the last time I saw him on TV.
Yeah, it's possible that they could do that. They could also send him to NXT, because Paul Levesque at the last conference call was talking about how guys...
Yeah, NXT.
That guys that aren't being used on the main roster, may start becoming regulars in NXT.
Works for me. Balor versus Jinder. The usual Balor, or actually usual Jinder match, I apologize. One boring chinlock after another. Finally, Balor makes a comeback, goes up top. Samir tosses him into the ropes. Apollo Crews runs down, beats them up. Jinder kicks Apollo. Finn dives on a Jinder. Throws Balor inside. Drop kick in the corner. Double foot stomp. 1, 2, 3. And it was at this point that I suddenly realized what was happening on this show. Baby faces are saving other baby faces.
Only Finn Balor, for the most part, though.
Yeah, but Finn was saving guys, and then Apollo's out here saving guys.
Apollo did save it.
Finally.
Yeah.
Then Balor does a promo. Charlie astutely notes he was helping out the other baby faces tonight. And by the way, no sooner should I mention that than Drew McIntyre lays him out, and not one damn babyface helps Finn Balor. Bunch of ungrateful guys back there.
That was backstage, though. Maybe they were not in the same part of the building.
Maybe everyone else wasn't backstage.
Well, maybe not in the same part.
That's where everybody was.
But not in the same part of the building, because we didn't see any baby faces walking by and going like, "Oh, hey, how you guys doing?" And then keep walking. That would be funny.
We had a Lars Sullivan video package. He's being bid for Raw and SmackDown. Guess we'll find out when he makes his decision.
What about bodybuilding.com? Are they bidding for him?
I think they bid to get rid of him.
Yeah.
I know they did at least once. Ronda Rousey and Ember Moon versus Tamina and Nia. Actually, for all things considered, this was put together very well.
Yeah, well, they worked the match in Bossier City the night before, so it was the exact same match. But yeah, it was fine. I mean, yeah, it was fine.
So they ran wild on Tamina for a while. Nia distracted. Tamina super kicked Ember for the heat. Ember tagged in Ronda. Ronda ran wild on Tamina. I thought, oh my God, this could be terrible, but it was all right. Then she demanded Nia tag in. Nia didn't want to tag in. So Tamina tagged her and told her to get in there. Nia got inside, but then she immediately tagged Tamina back in. Ronda yanked her back into the ring. Tamina tried to jump her. I thought, oh my God, there's no way Tamina's ending the streak. Rolled her up for a close near fall. Thank God she kicked out.
There was no way that Tamina was going to beat her, no.
Ronda missed a step-up knee by about a mile. Broke down into a four-way. Ronda hit a throw. Ember hit the Eclipse. Ronda put her in the armbar. Submitted Tamina. Babyfaces won the main event. They were all happy. Everybody cheered. And that's how the show ended. So, better than last week.
That's great praise.
It was better than some of the recent Nitros I've watched from the fall of 1999.
Oh, my God. It's better than 1999 Nitro. That's real great praise.
Yeah, even last week was better than 1999 Nitro.
Really?
Oh.
Wow.
It's horrible.
Yeah. I thought last week was horrible too, though.
Last week was horrible, but it was a different kind of horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I just remember that the Nitro was mind-bogglingly bad, as opposed to just kind of bad.
What's up with the revival in the Young Bucks?
Matt Jackson just like went on Twitter and said that someday that they would wrestle, and you know, save this tweet. And then Dash Wilder said someday they're going to wrestle and save this tweet. So I guess we should save the tweets for when they wrestle. Someday they're going to wrestle. I always figured someday they'd wrestle. I don't know where, but someday.
Jericho had an altercation. What happened? Speared some fool?
Yeah. So he was in Regina, Saskatchewan doing a show last night. And after the show, some messed up guy was back there wanting to get into the tour bus. There was apparently a kid helped play or did some drum work or something like that on the show, and the kid wanted to get on the tour bus or get autographs or something like that, and this other guy said that, you know, he'll get him on the tour bus. So he tries to get him on the tour bus. I guess that they don't want him on. He ends up somehow sneaking on, and one of the guys in the crew saw him, and they got into a fight, and actually the guy ended up with a broken collarbone from the fight. So then he gets kicked out. Jericho's yelling at him. So Jericho gives him a spear, and he's pounding on him from the mount position. I think it was a mount. He was on top. Nobody actually told me that the guy may have had like a guard or anything. He just said Jericho was on top of him and punching him out, and then he went back on the bus. And then he came back out and did it again and tried to tell the people to he let him go. Then the people who were there, and there was people watching this, tried to hold the guy till the police comes. Then he got away, and he ran away, and then the police came, and the police chased him. And the police ended up arresting him. So they did end up catching him after the guy ran away. So that is the gist of the story of what happened last night.
Man, oh man.
Yeah.
What's up with Osprey and Pac?
Wouldn't that be like terrible if like Jericho did something like he's pounding on this guy and he breaks his hand and then he's off the Tokyo Dome show? Although
I'm pretty sure he could wrestle the Tokyo Dome show with a broken hand.
I'm sure he would.
I don't think the NSAC is going to issue a medical suspension.
Yeah. I think he would. He probably would work it like in some form. But I mean, you can always get hurt in a fight. But whatever. So what were you saying?
Osprey and Pac.
Osprey and Pac are wrestling February 15th, I think, in London. They're wrestling in February in London. The show's already sold out. The show sold out in minutes. So, I mean, like, pretty much all tickets were sold in 19 minutes, but there were, like, singles and stuff. So it wasn't, like, officially a sellout for, like, an hour and 45, but there were almost no tickets left after 19 minutes. So even though the UK scene's struggling, you know, I mean, I'd love to see that match. Will Ospreay and Pac, I mean, that could be just an incredible match. I'm sure, I figure that Revolution Pro is going to have like I mean, that's a match that it should sell out. So, and they really should. I don't know politically how you can pull this off because Pac is wrestling for Dragon Gate. In fact, he's going for the championship right as we speak, or in a couple of hours against Masato Yoshino. But yeah, that's like his first. Oh, I guess he had a match with Zack Sabre as well in Revolution Pro.
All right, let's do some of the mailbag questions here. Mailbag at WrestlingObserver.com. This person wants to know, why does Lance Archer no longer spit water into the crowd during the Killer Elite Squad entrances? Was this something higher-ups in the company told him to stop?
Yes, Harold May says no more. So no more.
Fans complain or just...
I don't know, but Lance Archer was not happy about that at all.
This person here says, in the newsletter you mentioned Sam Muchnick was the booker of the World Heavyweight Champion. Did the champion usually have his own booker at the time?
Okay, so booker means that he's the one who arranged his schedule, not that he did all of his finishes. Sam Mushnick did not do his finishes, although he had to approve the finishes. And that was always a political thing. Because Sam would, you could do disputed finishes and things like that to build up rematches, but in the end, the world champion had to win. That was like Sam's thing, and also Sam protected the champion. Like, you could only do so many 60-minute matches, like in a week or 2-week period. You don't want to destroy the champion. So a lot of times these promoters wanted to do 60-minute matches like 6 times a week, and so his thing was to make sure that the guys never were having to do stuff like that.
This person here says, if the Ring of Honor Madison Square Garden show went on sale today with all of the roster shakeups, would it sell out? I think so. I think it was sold based on the history of it happening.
Not Ring of Honor. I think it's the idea of I think New Japan's really the reason it sold out. So the key people were Omega and the Young Bucks, and maybe like Okada, or someone like that. So a lot of the key guys wouldn't be there. I think that it would. I don't think it would sell it instantly. I don't think it would sell out actually without if the people thought, even though none of those guys were advertised. The fact is that people who bought tickets, I think that they were very strongly the people that a lot of people were buying the tickets for.
Person says, with the WWE Fox deal, is there any chance that someone with Fox will demand a more professional approach to their camera work and end this zooming nonsense? Makes it difficult to watch most weeks and comes across as amateur.
I don't know.
It is hideous.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, the idea is that they do it because they think that they don't want you to get a direct thing to see all the moves that miss.
No, because, if you want to do that, just switch the camera in the middle of the punch. Like the zooming, the incessant zooming is not hiding anything. It's just making it impossible to watch.
I don't know. It doesn't bother me that much.
Oh, it's horrible.
I know sometimes I watch the show and it's a little bit bothersome, but yeah, I don't disagree. So yeah, because I don't know. But usually I don't know. I usually don't think about that stuff, but I know some people do, and it drives them crazy, and it's probably not worth driving people crazy over something like that.
This person says, with Kanemitsu coming back to do his Young Lions duty from his 2016 injury, any updates on Hikuleo and Yoshihashi?
No, I don't know when they're coming back. What is going on here?
That's a good question.
Oh. Well, they went away.
We had a commercial run in.
Yeah.
So no update.
I don't know exactly. Well, Hikuleo, I think, had knee surgery. So, God, I'm trying to remember when he had the surgery. I don't know off the top of my head. You got to figure probably 7 months after the surgery. Give or take a month in either direction is when you'd be back.
Sprazier says, any word on how Roman is doing?
He was at a football game, not this last weekend, but the weekend before. He seemed to be okay. So, I think all things considered that he's probably doing okay. I have not heard anything. I think they're going to keep everything as completely secretive until he beats it. And when that happens, I'm sure that they'll play that up huge. And they should. Honestly, they should.
This person here says, can you possibly elaborate on the proposed working agreement that was in place between WCW and Tori Uman in early 2001, right when Fusion was coming into the picture? Were there any concrete plans or talents that WWE or WCW and Bischoff had an eye on? I know he was supposed to visit the Tori Uman crew in March of 2001.
I don't know if there was anything specific. Those guys were on Nitro before, but they didn't do anything with him, even though Magnum Tokyo kind of got over as like this cult thing. And those guys were all really talented. But they weren't, they were all pretty much like rookies. And people don't even remember like Shima was on and people like that. Don Fuji was there, a couple of the other ones. They were on Nitro a couple times. But yeah, I don't know specifics of what was going to happen at that point, other than they were looking at revamping the product. That's all.
This person says, I've been listening to this awesome album, Shake, Wrestle, and Roll recently. So wondering about the career of exotic Adrian Street. Was he any good in the ring? How did the audience at the time take to his gimmick?
So Adrian Street was kind of like a legendary character in the UK. He was from Wales, and he was a huge star. And then he came to the United States. He was already in his 40s when he came to the United States. And at the time, so he's very short. And at the time, you didn't have a lot of short wrestlers. Certainly not getting pushes. You kind of had to have size for a push. So he started in California, and I don't really think people knew kind of how to take him. They used him on top kind of in California, but California sucked. I mean, as far as our wrestling was terrible at the time. Went to Mid-South, where, Bill liked him and pushed him, but only to a certain degree. Went to Memphis. I think he did a little bit better there. Florida, I think they worked him with Dusty. So they did, real well with him there. He worked in the Carolinas as well. He was ended up living in. He went to Southeastern Championship Wrestling and ended up living in, I think, Gulf Breeze, and may still be there as far as I know. He was by the time he was in the United States, I really wouldn't say he was a good wrestler, but he had a very good act. He was very entertaining, good ring entrance, great showman, really great showman. So he was effective. If he was a little bit bigger and a little bit younger, I think he could have been a superstar heel at that time. It touched on nerves of people. So, yeah, I think that would be kind of my... But no, I wouldn't say he was... By the time I saw him, I never thought he was great or anything like that, but I did think he was kind of entertaining.
This person here says, how come WWE have stopped with the opening videos for Raw and SmackDown? Usually there was video with the wrestlers on whichever show along with a theme song, but I can't remember the last time this happened. I
don't know. That's just their creative decision.
Person wants to know when the Hall of Fame issue is coming out.
So the plan is 2 weeks from Wednesday. That is the plan. Would have been out probably this week or next. Except, things happened, like the Larry Madison thing happened, and just put me behind. That's all. Just put me way behind.
Here says, with the relationships with Progress and ICW and the expansion of NXT UK, who do you see WWE working with in Japan when it comes to potential expansion of NXT Japan?
I think that they'll probably try to work. They may not want to work with anyone. Maybe they'll work with Noah. They did work with Noah, sending Hideo Itami to a show. So, yeah, but I would say, I guess, because of that relationship, they would have the best chance right now, but it could be anyone.
And this person here says, any word on TLC ticket sales?
They're not sold out, but they are very strong. They'll be strong. The secondary market's not really hot here for that show, but it's it'll be fine. It'll be, if it's not sold out, it'll be sold out. There were so few tickets left the last time I checked that, and they may even be gone by now. But yeah, it will be sold out, I'm sure, by the time of the show.
All right, everybody. On that note, we're going to wrap it up for today. The new Observer is going to be out over the next, 24 hours now, actually, right? 48 hours? New back issue Observer is up on the front page. We had a lot of shows today. Court Bauer was on with Dave and Garrett and on Observer Live. So 2 shows there to talk about MLW and more. So check those out. And that's it, everybody. We'll talk to you again after a while.